Hey guys, welcome to Thrive Bites Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Colin Zhu, and thank you so much for listening on. You could have been anywhere in the world and you decided to spend just a few moments of your precious time, and we greatly appreciate it. Here on the podcast, we talk about three things: living a plant-powered lifestyle, enhancing emotional resilience, and creating a thriving mindset. And I interview a range of passionate guests such as physicians, dietitians, coaches, entrepreneurs, and many more. And please join me as I deliver these engaging, informative, and high-valued conversations for you. So what are you waiting for? Come on inside. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Dr. Colin Zhu, aka TheChefDoc, and we have another episode for you guys today. This is a very, very special episode. I'll be joined with 4 other guests, and we're going to be talking about all things mental health. But we're going to be talking about it from the male perspective. So you don't want to miss this. And as a disclaimer, please, if you are experiencing any type of mental health types of symptoms, any depressive symptoms, any suicidal symptoms, please make sure you seek help and support. We have a 988 hotline. We have a lot of links and resources in the show notes below. And this is for information and educational purposes only. Please consult with your providers. This episode explores mental health and different topics and themes like healthy or toxic masculinity, how it interrelates with culture, intergenerational trauma, and much, much more. So you don't want to miss this, and I'll see you guys inside. Okay, guys. Well, welcome to another episode of Thrive Bites Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Colin Zhu, and thank you so much for being here with us. You could have been anywhere in the world, and you decided to spend your precious moments with us today, and we are greatly, greatly appreciative of that. And notice that I said we, because not only do I have 1, but 2, 3, I can't count today, 4, making a total of 5, including me, with us today. And I cannot believe this is happening. So I will introduce each guest and bring them on. And we are going to notice that we're timing the recording. This is the month of May. So we will highlight why that is important. So no in particular order. My first guest is Noel Garcia. He is rooted in nearly 30 years of taiko, which is the Japanese art of drumming. He is a Filipino-American artist and founder of Genpu Daiko in San Diego, where he weaves rhythm, story, and soul into spaces of healing and connection. His work invites others into reflection, presence, harmony, and a quiet power of shared transformation through rhythmic expression. Love that. My next guest is Dr. Michael Huynh. He is a mental health researcher, completed his PhD in public health at UC Irvine, where he studies the impact of social relationships on mental health for Asian American communities. He's also currently serving as an active role in D.D. Hirsch Next Gen Advisory Council and Lotus Project Community Advisory Board. Our next guest is JinShan Collective, and he is a dancer, facilitator, creating playful, personalized community experiences to reawaken joy and compassion within ourselves. He's a street dancer of 15 years and a teaching artist with universal hip hop. And Jackson has taught at 20 plus K-12 schools, empowering the youth to express themselves and connect with their joy. He's also the founder of Soulful Sundays, which is a free dance picnic at Echo Park that encourages dancing in nature for mental health. Definitely check that out. And last but not least, we have Leo Shah, he is a men's group leader and facilitator of support groups for Asian men. He has spent over 6 years holding conversations about masculinity, identity, and culture for 500 plus men. He facilitates his own men's group, JinShan Men's Community, through his company, JinShan Collective, as well as Proud Asian Men Group under the nonprofit organization, Asian Mental Health Project. So that is a mouthful. So without further ado, please welcome these gentlemen. You guys get unmute yourself.
Colin,
Yo.
that was really good, Colin. You crushed that. Phenomenal.
No,
Oh man, I love it. It's been a while since I've had this many guests, so we're gonna play kind of like those street performers in Manhattan. I'm from the Northeast, so whenever we go into the city, we always have these street performers, and it's kind of like, that magic trick of the Dixie cups, right? And you have to guess where the coin is, right? So it's like shuffling the pictures on the screen. But I've had the wonderful privilege of meeting every single one of these individuals, these fine individuals in real life. So we're going to bring amazing conversation. And if you hear my cat, that's Naruto chiming in, which will do our best to make sure he gets his piece of the conversation. So why are we all here? So let me just kind of preface it. We are, at the time of the recording, we're in the month of May 2025. It is making sure it is AANHPI, which stands for Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islanders month. And it's also mental health awareness. So it's very interesting that these two, I'm picturing like a Venn diagram, almost how they kind of overlap. And I personally have been involved with the Proud Asian Men group. So I have firsthand personal experience of being really immersed. We're coming up to our 1-year anniversary from the first time that we have this live immersive experience, which started in Los Angeles, which we'll talk a little bit more of. And it's important to kind of shed light, not just this month, but every day as much as possible. And I think it's also important as males or people that identify as males to be able to express themselves as authentically as possible. And within the Asian American diaspora, there is a lot of, how do we want to say this? A lot of cloaks, a lot of invisible walls. I'm thinking of like Harry Potter, like invisible cloaks that you kind of have to, you don't see, but it's there in terms of things like the themes of shame, guilt, obligation, duty. And it's very interesting because we talk a lot about themes like masculinity and culture and growing up, childhood experiences, and how those themes intersect and intertwine and how they could run parallel. So I'm very excited about this conversation. Let's start off by going a little bit more in depth. How do we meet each other? Do some of y'all know each other before the 1-year mark that we all saw each other? Who wants to go first?
I think I'll take this question. Yeah. So quick history lesson. I started Proud Asian Men about 6 years ago. Started as an in-person support group for Asian men in Los Angeles. It moved online and stayed online for a long time through the pandemic, and eventually started working with Asian Mental Health Project to create more online groups and do in-person work. So I've had the privilege of having had Dr. Michael there since some of the very first groups 6 years ago. So me and him go way back. He has seen me through every possible iteration and the group itself through every possible iteration. So I'm very thankful for that. That's the longest standing friendship for me in this group. I got the privilege of hearing about Jackson through AMHP. He was facilitating a releasing anger through movement workshop. And I was like, that is so cool. That is so cool. I'm gonna need him for something eventually. So last March, we did a Asian men's group in person in LA after a long hiatus of not doing in-person things. And I brought Jackson in just to do some intro movement, get us warmed up. And the rest is history, where I have been telling Jackson, I don't want to do a retreat anywhere without you. So as you will see in the next upcoming weeks, I will be dragging Jackson all across the state in LA and to the Bay to do some more work. So excited for you guys to hear from him. And Colin and Noel, I had the privilege of meeting you two at our big day-long retreat last year. And that was really historic because I had never hosted a day-long event. So I was really privileged to get some organizational support from MHP to put it on. It got to be free for all attendance. I'd say we had a pretty magical time. Now we might get into that later. So that is my quick history lesson of all of us coming together.
Thank you. And Dr. Michael, you're going to have to get used to this. Knowing that you've known Leo and the work that you have done, why would you say the work that we're doing both personally and professionally, and what I'm aiming for is mental health and the expression and the language and using the vocabulary and just living and hearing about lived experiences, why is it important that this is being done? Why is this work important to have? For example, there not necessarily needs to be a immersive experience because I know Leah will talk about more. There's going to be more. We've had virtual experiences as well. But why, from your lens, from the work that you've done, and I'll share some stats in a moment, why do you think this is important that we have this?
Yeah, it's a great question, Colin. And thanks for the invitation to answer this question too. At least from my experience working in the research of public health, it's interesting because of the timing of the past few years that we've not only experienced a pandemic from COVID-19, but some people would also argue that we've been experiencing a loneliness epidemic as well. I mean, with COVID, there's been more chances for isolation and less chances for connection. And that has really changed the narrative about, wow, what really matters in mental health. And I think a key component of that is strong social relationships, to be able to make sure that whether that's family, romantic partners, friends, it's important for us to be able to cultivate strong connections with each other, because we know that social support has such an important role in the ways that we can improve our health as well. Especially given that we as Asian men identify ourselves as such. Of course, I imagine you'll go through stats later on in the episode, but I think it's important to realize that as Asian men, we see that the numbers really portray an importance in a public health need. We see that among different racial and gender combinations, Asian men are the least likely to use mental health services compared to other groups. We've also seen that in racial groups, Asian youth are the only group to experience suicide as a leading cause of death. And this is pronounced further in Asian boys as well. And so I think there is a strong need to be able to strengthen intervention. And I think a big part of that is Leo's work to be able to cultivate spaces where we can talk about topics that are not necessarily very easy to discern, whether that's shame, family struggles, our own personal stressful life challenges. I think what he does is incredible and really going to continue leaving a big impact on others.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just share some quick stats, and these are you can correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Michael. These are 23 stats. Is 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience mental health illness each year. 1 in 20 U.S. adults experience serious mental health illness each year. 16.4 of them are non-Hispanic Asians experience mental health each year, and that of which Asian Americans are 3 times less likely to seek mental health services than white Americans. So I guess I would just anyone can answer this, but do you feel, is it a combination of not having enough resources, or what is it? Is there an economics to it? Is there not enough demand, so there's not enough supply, or the supply has always been there in terms of resources, just not enough demand? Anyone can answer this. It's a good question, huh?
Yeah, I can answer. I think about inertia, right? Or moving object that's already moving will be easier to move it. But if something is still, or there's not, in this case, talk about Asian men's mental health, where there's not enough support systems around it, there's not enough of a normalization around talking about not just mental health, but specifically painful things for men, right? In our friend groups, in our male friends, we don't typically talk about dating, right? Intimacy. loneliness, connectivity. So for a lot of men, even if you're thinking about it yourself, but no one around you that you care about, whether it's in your family or your friend groups or your colleagues are talking about, it becomes incredibly isolating, right? And then it becomes all the more unlikely that you're to move beyond just your thoughts, right? Into taking that first step, into finding therapy, into finding a support group, or even that one friend that you catch up over coffee and they say, oh yeah, and I was in therapy the other day and this is what I talked about. It's like, oh, whoa, I guess that's not a big deal to you. Maybe it doesn't need to be as big of a deal to me either. So that social factor is really important to overcoming that initial inertia or getting the ball rolling, as you might say. So that's the work that we try to do at JinShan Collective and Proud Asian Men, is that we can be that one friend, right? That we can build a core community of people that are normalizing thinking about therapy, thinking about healing. In the recent Proud Asian Men session, we were talking about, hey, the second you come in through our doors, whether virtually or in person, we hand you your, hey, you're man enough card, right? Because we think about how much energy men spend in their life trying to be man enough, trying to put on this image of competence and performance, right? And that energy is not going towards self-love. That energy is not going to go towards their relationships, and that energy is not going to go back towards their communities. So the hope is that the more men normalize this, the more we can make it easier for other men, so we can be that ripple effect. I hope that answers some of the question. Yeah, but it's extremely difficult at the start when it seems like that emotional feeling of nobody around me cares about this. Therefore, it's actually weird for me to care about it. So I'm actually going to squash it.
Right, right. No, I'm going to turn this question to you. Is there anything unique, and if there is, about the Asian or Asian American culture? Okay, and you can feel free to state the ethnicity that you hail from. Is there any? Are there any uniqueness from the culture that contributes to the lack of wanting to seek therapy, or just the lack of not having the support, or just the environment that's creative, saying like, oh, I don't feel that I want to do this, or I don't feel apt to reach out, to someone?
That's a really deep question because it's so multifaceted, in the sense that culture does play a really big part in even the approach. Because for a lot of us, a lot of Asian men, there is a deep shame in even approaching anything that can be pronounced as something to solve, and trying to get away from that narrative where something to solve means that there's a problem, means that something needs to be fixed, means that there is a brokenness in you that you should never share with anyone, because you're an Asian man, you need to take care of all these things on your own without sharing it, like the lone wolf mentality. So there's that aspect. I mean, at least turning this question into myself and my own journey, there was deep shame. And the shame came from thinking that I was a mistake for all the mistakes that I did make, because I should have been able to troubleshoot this perfectly, or get through this situation perfectly, or be able to not be affected by it perfectly. So there's a lot of this kind of weight, or also culturally, where they say, you don't need to talk about your problems with anyone, especially not outside of the family, because who do they know? Or what do they know about you? You grew up with us. They don't know you. They're a stranger. Why would you tell a stranger about your situations when you could just lean into us? Which, interestingly enough, that's where a lot of the trauma can potentially stem from. And so the other part of it too is if a person is able to get past that hurdle, then the other hurdle is, oh, I have to confront myself now. And as an Asian man, I actually don't have the wherewithal to be able to equip myself to confront emotion in general, let alone the depth of the darkness inside of me, and actually see it as truth to work from. So I think looking at it from multiple approaches as to why the accessibility, or even just the comfortability I feel like I'm uncomfortable about this, therefore I guess I'm not doing it correctly. Maybe I'm doing this all wrong. Forget it. I'm not going to do it. Right. So you kind of talk yourself out of it at some point. And so that kind of approach or reactivity to this kind of help or trying to connect can be, how do you say, a blockade. You end up becoming your own barrier to try to get through, to try to find yourself. Ironically, to find yourself, you get in your way and then you decide not to do it. So I don't know if that really answers that question. I think it does. Anyway.
No, it does. Jackson, I want to turn this question to you. Is going off of what Noel was saying, how much from your lived experience does the home life, the physical environment contribute to it? Because it looks different, right? Of course, we can go into stats of socioeconomic, different types of, levels, things like that. But how much does the home life contribute to it? How much does the physical environment contribute to one being more keen to open up and be vulnerable, the want to share, the want to reach out and, get support, or lack thereof? Does it cause you to not, do that? Can you draw from your experiences?
Yeah, this makes me think of many things. One of them is like, especially from going through the pandemic and the lockdown, suddenly people realize how much, exactly what you're saying. Like, what is it that your space makes you feel like? I remember there was a tactic of, getting through the lockdown life was, sectioning different parts of your room. It's like, this is the workout area, this is the work area, this is the relaxed area, whatnot. So suddenly we start to understand how an intentional space has a huge mental impact and creates a feeling for us. And that definitely feeds into how vulnerable we feel like we can be, whether it's literally with a person there or with the structure environment. Because this also makes me think about, in terms of green building designs, how so many of our human civilization is just gray boxes. Like, why is it that we took ourselves away from the beautiful outdoors and put ourselves in literally gray boxes, inside? And so much of green building, the study itself is whether it's natural light, whether it's having wood colors within your home and having nature textures and whatnot, what this does subconsciously, psychologically. There are so many studies around how having hospitals that are built around life, green life, nature, that actually helps the patients literally recover better. And sometimes it might be just having a rooftop garden, where it also kind of absorbs the rain and prevents erosion, also provides food for the hospital and whatnot. And it's just a whole study that really gets us to rethink how our space makes us feel. I remember studying sustainability. There was this one really beautiful example is nature's building. An example is a tree. An apple tree provides food, shelter, shade, habitat for many different biodiversities and animals, and that it grows with you and grows stronger throughout time, versus a gray box. It just stale, over time and whatnot. It just makes us want to just be still. So it fits really well with the sedentary lifestyle, which we have now, especially, expedited by the pandemic as well with the digital culture. And so, my whole thing is to bring friends to a park. You don't have to dance. You literally just gather at a park. So many things happen when people just gather. And that also comes from a built environment, when this environment itself, it doesn't make us want to move, doesn't make us want to invite people over, that we want to have potlucks or just to chat with friends. That creates so much more isolation versus an open space, that inviting space that makes us feel like, oh, we want to do something, that we want to, dance, we want to listen to music, we want to sing with friends. Imagine a space like that, and what that would do to someone's mental health.
as you were talking, I just thought to myself, why don't we just live in a treehouse? Because you can be in nature, you have the shelter, and it makes a lot of sense. And from a medical perspective, like you said, you're very keen and on the hit the nail on the head is we are finding a lot of Mother Nature and the benefits, especially towards mental as well, and immune health as well. So, but that's another topic for another day. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Dr. Colin Zhu, and we are very, very excited to officially announce that we are starting a cookbook. This has been a long time coming, and this is the pre-order campaign, and we are so excited for this project. So guys, as a reminder, we live in a world where 72% of us are overweight, about 40% are obese here in America. More than half of the top 10 causes of death are attributable to dietary and lifestyle changes, the top 2 being heart disease and cancer year after year after year. 1 out of 3 of us are pre-diabetic. We live in a world where we are immersed in ultra-processed, calorically rich, and nutrient-poor foods, as well as animal-based foods. And this leads to a whole host of problems. And yet 88% of countries outside of America face 2 or 3 forms of malnutrition. And not only that, our soil health is very poor due to modern agriculture, which is 99% of what we practice here in America. And that leads to a lot of issues in terms of biodiversity loss, in terms of soil degradation, and a lot of resources being used because of animal agriculture. And that has a huge environmental impact and also an impact to our individual health. So the aim of this book is to connect all of these dots, how our food choices affect our individual ecosystems and how that creates a ripple effect to our community and towards planetary health. And so I am enlisting a lot of my friends and colleagues. We're going to have over 25 experts ranging from physicians, chefs, dietitians, environmental experts, and farmers to collaborate to write this book. The book is a cookbook which is filled with plant-forward recipes that are both seasonal, balanced, traditional, multicultural, and nutritious and delicious at the same time. It's not just going to be a cookbook, it's also going to be a strategy book as well. So this pre-order campaign is to not only get your copy of the physical book, but also a digital copy. And if you order for this pre-order campaign, you'll also get free access to the TheChefDoc Academy, which has been 8 years of work and valued over thousands of dollars. The aim of this book is to get over 1,000 pre-orders in order to get the best traditional publisher to make a massive impact. And so, guys, be part of a movement, not only be able to find all the things that you want to do for your individual health, but also for your family and community, and play an actionable role to be able to save the planet that we're on now. So, click on the link to find out for more information, and we can't wait for you to join this movement, and I'll see you guys on the next one. I want to talk about a little bit more beyond therapy. So when people think about mental health, they automatically nowadays associate it with therapy. And before, we're doing our best to destigmatize it, not have it as, taboo, which in a way, the pandemic, I believe, kind of brought it to the surface. And it's kind of like a blessing in disguise, because for better or worse, it really bubbled everything up. And it's kind of like, oh, we're here, we have to deal with it, right? So what's interesting to me, and having firsthand experience, is you're able to not necessarily, quote unquote, therapize it, or having like a medium, just, using the medium of therapy to address mental health. But these workshops and immersions and these groups, and plus many different iterations and formats, can also contribute and help. Leo, going back to you, what was the mindset in terms of curating these different types of workshops? Can you go more into it? Like, what was the thought planning?
There wasn't a whole lot of planning. It kind of just unfolded in organic way, really beautifully. I'm not the most planny person. I've been telling people I think the most beautiful things that have happened in my life have just happened as a leap of faith, and then the organization comes after the fact. I've been putting more language to this recently. I've always wondered, I think now people are talking about, oh, let's decolonize therapy. Let's decolonize Western therapy. Let's really seek to question that. Is it really effective for what we're working with in the modern age and the problems that people have? And I was talking to my dear friend Donnell, and he was telling me that a core facet of his facilitation is non-hierarchical learning. So I think growing up in the school system, and even beyond into the real world, there's a sense of, cool, I'm gonna wait for my guru, I'm gonna wait for my teacher, I'm gonna wait for some authority figure to tell me what to do, tell me what the right answer is. And once they give that to me, I'm gonna go do that thing, and then my life will be great. Sometimes that works, but in these peer support groups and these peer support based events, we're introducing the idea that the most powerful wisdom, the most healing thing you can take home with you might be something that the man next to you says. Right? It's not about this like, oh, from above, I'm getting this from God, so to speak. But the idea that, oh, this stranger next to me might have some insight about life, some insight about their own healing, about their own journey as a human, that might be incredibly useful and helpful to me. So then, as the organizers of the events, it's not to show up and teach these guys. It's like, how can we set the space for that non-hierarchical, all these permutations of that non-hierarchical learning and community and connection and love and empathy to happen? How can we set the best space versus how can we give the best knowledge? That's how I realized that's the language of how I've been approaching it from the beginning, but probably only in these last 2 weeks, I've been like, okay, cool. That's some language as to what I'm doing and why it's working.
The way I like to think about the peer support group format, and just for all the audience who hasn't participated or not aware of it, it's not led by a therapist or a healthcare professional. It's more facilitator led by co-facilitators and things like that, right? Okay. The way I think about it, the way you described it, is it's almost like when you have a therapist and a patient or a client, it's almost like a one-way street. And when I think about, which can be bidirectional, but in a peer group, where you have a circle or, everyone is more inward. So you have multiple arrows and directions, which can, in a way, I like things that are compounded, and it can compound the effect in a way, can be compounded, can be exponential, because you have suddenly multiple perspectives, which I didn't really think about, because when you join one of these groups, and, I think if you haven't joined one of these groups, it's similar to like, AA in a way. But it's also filled with many, many layers of activities and different ideas as well. You are suddenly filled with multiple perspectives and shared experiences. Michael, what was your first, when we did that first one-day workshop, what was your first impression? What was your impression before going in, and what was your impression coming out?
Oh, that's a good question. And it's interesting that you say that in the context of this retreat, which has happened to take place 1 year ago. I find it really interesting because I can't really come into that experience without acknowledging the space I've already been a part of that Leo has facilitated. And so, like Leo's mentioned, that like he first began this work in person in Los Angeles in 2019. And so I was really struck by how natural he asked questions and facilitated conversations between us as participants. And with the COVID pandemic, I think it was really inspiring to see that translated well online, to know that whether we are in the same local area or out of state or even out of the country, we can have really meaningful connections with people, and specifically men and Asian men, across the world, as long as we have a shared curiosity to just hear what's going on in our lives. So I had a good intuition that the day would go quite well. But I think what made it really different is that it was in person. It was, I believe, like an event from 9 to 6 p.m. So because of that longer duration, it just felt like physically a lot more humbling to know that physically in a room with 20 to 30 Asian guys talking about emotions and mental health and doing breath work, I think it's incredibly surreal because it means seeing ourselves and normalizing, oh, this is possible. Like this is what Leo is doing, is reimagining the possible. And I think that is, so what I did coming out of that is like, wow, it felt like it was planting seeds, because even the 5 of us, like we got closer after that event, and it took a while to get there. But I think that's the beauty of like real connections and relationships. It takes time. It's not instantaneous, like development of strong friendships. It takes time to have like important events like this, and to be able to learn and discern which people are worth making time for. And so I think it's the way I saw the event. It was a catalyst to be able to, again, reimagine what's possible.
No, same question to you. What was your impression before going in and your impression coming out?
Going in, interestingly enough, I randomly found it through social media while I was on a performance tour in Toronto. And I saw it and I kind of was interested because it was specifically Asian men getting together. And a course of things happened between that time and coming back stateside, and then finally getting to the door of the event, where I really felt this adverse pull to want to run away. And the reason why I felt that too was, here we go. Is this really going to be a place for healing that I need, or is it going to be a coliseum where everyone is, secretly trying to one up each other, or to battle each other, or to peacock around and try to posture in spaces? And so there was a part of me through a trauma response that said, maybe I should just do this alone. And something pulled me to open the door and sit down in that half circle and get to know the people slowly, because I didn't know anyone. I drove up from San Diego. People seemed to kind of know each other, so that was a little off-putting for me at the beginning. But through the prompts, through the questions, these were questions that I had deep within inside of me, that I was hearing resonating from other people outside of me. And because of that, it was almost like a beckoning. I guess I could say that I'm not alone right now, because this question I thought was only in the reserves of the darkness within me. I didn't know anyone else thought this way. So suddenly I felt this commonality with other men in that space, slowly revealing the things that brought them there. And then after breath work, and after dancing, and after discussion, and after finally, letting the floodgates open emotionally, I didn't realize that became an allowance for everybody else to feel, finally, almost like desert tasting rain for the first time. And so at the end of the period of time that we had, it was interesting, because here I was at the beginning saying, oh man, what the hell am I going to do for 6 hours? Oh, it's 8 hours. What am I going to do with that 2 extra hours? And then suddenly at the end of the day saying 8 hours was not enough time, because we're just getting started. I'm just getting started. I didn't know that I had other people that may or may not look like me, but share some commonality in the journey, the beginning steps to even traverse the landscape of healing. And so that's kind of what happened with me, and that's how bonds were formed, because we had a lot to say for the first time.
Excellent. Jackson, I'm going to turn this question to you. You are by trade a dancer, which is super cool in itself. I'm just going to share with the audience that we've had many iterations of the workshops and in-person events, and we explored things like the guys have mentioned breath work, some visualization. You have also facilitated through the medium of dancing recent events. We've done artwork. what is your opinion and impression of using different types of mediums to help facilitate whether discussions amongst each other or having our internal discussions and dialogues in terms of, okay, I'm feeling more at ease, not at ease, what is this, how do you feel those mediums could be used to help facilitate these sometimes scary thoughts, taboo topics, subtopics that, like shame and guilt and duty and obligation? How has those types of mediums helped to facilitate these concepts?
Yeah, I have so many thoughts on this, but also it's also including like responding to what even Dr. Michael and Noel said earlier too, in terms of like, this is reimagining a space, reimagining mental health space, reimagining what is possible. Because I don't know why, I just had this analogy just now, like if a therapist talking to, working our thoughts out, whatnot with the therapist, if that's kind of like a teacher and a student, because especially for me teaching kids, right? In that way, yes, it is very helpful. Like having a teacher, guide us through some patterns or like point out things that we might not have known before. But then it's as if like the goal for a kid who is having trouble connecting with other kids is not for a teacher to become their kid or to teach them how to be a kid, right? The goal is for the kid to be able to naturally connect with other kids and play along. And that is what naturally happened in this peer supported environment. And in that space also, then it's anything is possible because it can be a joyful space. It doesn't have to be so serious sitting here talking, kind of like we talk about like different arts and crafts and ways in doing that. And dance for me is like the most natural form of art that humans can do. And it's really accessible. It's just, we all have a body, even if it's differently abled, we all have a body in our own ways, and we can connect through movement, even if we don't speak the same language. And in that, especially guided by music, we can explore really any emotion that we would like to, because even tapping in with music, that is an art form created by people who have gone through similar journeys and felt the same things that, and suddenly now you connect with this random artist from like decades ago, and then it's like, oh my goodness, I didn't think anybody else could understand this feeling, but this song absolutely captured that feeling, and now I am moving through it, really embodying that feeling, and not only just by myself, but with other people in the same space to play with that. That is just like vulnerability and self-expression on another level. And especially for me, both doing partner dance and having done some form of contact as well, the biggest thing that I, really love teaching or facilitating kids, and of course now adults is to be able to connect with each other through movement, especially when we talk about a sedentary lifestyle, really a digital lifestyle. It's really foreign now for us to connect with another person. Even dance now, it's behind TikTok, it's behind IG. It feels like it's a performative thing. It feels like it's rather than socially interact with someone. I really like to call every partner dance, every dance that you do with someone else, a short-term intimate relationship, because that is what it is. Suddenly you get a feel of what it's like to be in this space with this other person, how to hold space with this other person, how to share space with them. And so this really calls in a lot of your own internal beliefs, responses and whatnot. So often, especially when in a partner dance, like with a lead and follow, people are able to reflect on, it's like, oh, I am having trouble trusting this person. I am having trouble surrendering control. I'm having trouble like giving clarity, or like I don't want to push them, too hard and whatnot. Like all of these, suddenly it is because of this interaction with another person. Then it calls into all these ways of us to reflect and examine ourselves and our beliefs and the way we interact in the world in ways that we usually wouldn't if we were just like dancing by ourselves in our room, which I do all the time anyway, because there's a lot of, signs there too with just literally movement and dance and connecting to music. But I think in particular, being in this type of peer supported space for us to really artistically create a world however we would want to experience whatever feeling that we want to with other people. I think that is the, redefining what is possible in terms of our mental health resources.
And I could definitely attest to that. Personally, I do a lot of Latin partner dancing. From my world, which is cooking, using food as medicine as a medium, you have to use all five senses, right? Because you will, if you don't use your smell, something's going to burn. If you don't use your sense of taste, you don't know if the ingredients paired correctly or not, and so on and so forth. So there's so much that you gain from using all five senses. And it's very, very true. Now everyone has a screen, right? Almost everyone on the planet has a screen and is behind a screen. And in a way, we're more connected, but even more so, we're more disconnected, not just physically, but just more on a deeper level. And that contributes. Anyone want to follow up on that? No, I know that you are a taiko master. And I'm sharing with the audience because we also had a lovely, amazing event with you facilitating using taiko drums. What was that experience like? If you can, tell us, through the facilitation.
Yeah, taiko. Well, through the facilitation, I would need to go back when I first started taiko back in 1998, actually. So I started taiko a long time ago, and I was already playing Western instruments like the clarinet and the tenor saxophone. And I went to a music high school for the arts. Over time, I realized, especially because I didn't have the awareness or the understanding of even what mental health was, I didn't know that taiko was my first therapist, because it helped me to traverse a different kind of gravity when it came to words I didn't know, like anxiety or depression. I didn't know what I was feeling. I just knew that my body needed to express outward. And what I realized, what informed me for the facilitation with taiko and the men's work, was how can we speak in different volumes, tell our stories without actually speaking. Sometimes what we're feeling, I realize through music and through movement, is that sometimes we don't have the words in our lexicon to really truly highlight what we're actually feeling in real time. And through rhythm, you could feel it resonating viscerally through your body, through your nerves. You could feel it running through your hair. You feel it in your hands and in your joints. You feel your heart racing. And the interesting thing about taiko and drums in general, it's ancestral. It's primal. It's something that even early humans had, was the beating of their own heart. And sometimes reconnecting your own heart within you to something outside of yourself, like a taiko, you get to start to speak in truth, whether you knew you could or not. And so I think through finding ways to just feel outward is enough. And I think that's what the interesting part of it is. Then we actually find out what enough actually means for the first time. And that may be through dance, and maybe through song. It's definitely through percussion, because you can just feel the vibration coming out of this instrument in front of you, and realizing that the taiko itself becomes an extension of you, and you could keep whatever secrets you have inside of you within you, and still let people outside of you know that, hey, I need help, or hey, I need companionship, hey, I need support, hey, I just need to be seen and be heard for the first time. But my voice, I'm still learning how to speak for the first time. So sometimes through taiko, that becomes your voice too, because maybe you've been shut down so much. But with a taiko drum, from the bachi or the stick in your hand to the tension surface that comes from earth itself, from an animal that sacrificed its life, from a tree that sacrificed its life, for an individual to put these things together and take time, blood, sweat, and tears to create an instrument for you, for us to create a medium to express outwardly without words, then becomes a very sacred place. We become more connected to our physical bodies, which can in turn really generate a different type of healing and maybe even a spiritual understanding if you go down that road. But it definitely, the word would be an epicenter that quakes you into awareness of the vastness of the universe that lives within you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, everyone, so far. So I'm just looking at time and pacing for the episode. I'm going to do a quick round robin for each and every one of you. Try not to answer past 2 lines, okay? I want you to answer, how has your mental health, if you identify as a struggle, or how has your mental health journey shaped you as a human being? Or another way of asking this is, what is the biggest lesson that you extrapolated from your journey thus far? Dr. Michael, I'm going to go with you.
Wow, that's a loaded question, Dr. Colin. But to answer briefly, I would say that, so it's just reflecting on my own mental health. It's really how to capture what my most important values are in life, and that's really connection and health. To know that, like, when it comes to prioritizing not just our mental health, but also our physical health, like, that takes priority because it affects everything that we do, whether that's our work, our daily activities. But I also find that it's so important to prioritize the relationships that we have too, because I find that spending time with the people that we love, whether that's family, romantic partners, or friends, like, it's so precious. So for me, I am very thankful that my own mental health journey has really led me to prioritize these 2 components of my life.
Lovely. Jackson?
Yeah. I'm thinking for it to be, we have different needs. So it's important for us to find and return to who we are in order for us to know what our needs are. And whatever those are, I think it's okay. As in, even giving yourself acceptance that your needs, what you need, might be different from everybody else around you. Yeah, something around. Yeah.
Leo, you're up.
I'll keep it simple and brief. The 2 phrases that come to mind are, I deserve to be myself and I deserve to tell the truth. And my mental health journey has brought me to that understanding, which I'm very grateful for.
No.
The sentiment that comes to mind is renewal and forgiveness. Renewal is the many places that we begin to start anew, to start a journey again, to begin again. It doesn't mean that you're starting from square one. You're starting from a new step, a first step in a different direction, a different page in a different book this time. The renewal, to be able to not feel shame of renewing yourself, to die to yourself, to give rise to a new version of you that can handle this time. So I think that would be the forgiveness of that and the renewal.
I think everyone gone, right? I would say for me is gratitude. Gratitude to understand the context of the relationship that I have with myself. And subsequently that relationship dictates my relationships outwardly. I don't know who said it first, but someone wiser than me has said that your external world is a reflection of your internal world. And so gratitude, I find that no matter if you can't be grateful. What I've learned is that you can't be grateful and angry at the same time. It's very, very hard, to simultaneously feel those 2 at the same time. So I try to focus more in a grateful state. I've learned that it's always the ebbs and flows, that life is usually, most of the time, very dynamic. It's like the ocean. And I can only control how I respond to events outside of me, and everything else I really can't have control. So it really allows me to be grateful, especially towards relationships, not just to the lovely gentleman across the screen, but all the relationships that I've built, came across, crisscrossed, throughout my my life's journey so far. So yeah, moving forward, anyone can answer this, but what do you see, knowing what you know now, what do you see as the outlook of men's mental health? Do you see a positive outlook? Is there a positive trajectory? And if not, what do you think needs to be in place? Because this is a very small subset, right? We're talking about a snippet, peer support group, very small, number, cohorts, right? With the hope that maybe if, every man in America has access, to this, we would have, be better off. So what do you guys see as the outlook? Is it a positive one? And if not, what do we need to do to put in place to make it positive?
I kind of want to jump in. I think because, especially following with what you just said, actually, our external world is a reflection of our internal world. So I think for us, we tend to now find ourselves more in circles of other men who are also exploring themselves and also mental health resources like this, right? And then also I think about it in the sense of not just for men, but for this, from this generation on, and even I would say, from millennial on, Gen Z, whatnot. Once we start talking about mental health and learning about it, this is not something that we can just unknow. Once we learn about how patriarchy really, negatively affects men too, we can't unknow that. Once we know how much getting in touch with our authenticity and being emotionally vulnerable and gaining emotional intelligence and becoming much more shame resilient, once we learn the benefits of all these, we can't unlearn them. We can't it just makes sense. It simply makes sense for us to keep practicing and keep moving towards this way. So I think it's for many of us, we just have this inflection point. Once we hit it, then okay, this is actually making me coming back to myself. And I will naturally then find people in much more circles, spaces like this for myself going forward. And obviously, there are always, many other modalities and mindsets thinking other ways. But I think for what is long-term sustainable, we can immediately feel it. And once we know it and we're on that track, I think we only find other men and other people who are also looking to heal in this way.
I can build off that. Thank you, Jackson. Yeah, the word sustainable, right? When I started doing this work, there was a part of me that felt an intense savior complex. I'm here to save every Asian man on the planet. And thankfully, I've grown out of that mindset because it was burning me the crap out. Right? Because if I'm supposed to be the savior, and then I can be the only savior, then every day I'm not working and creating something new, and boom, 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 then I'm failing. I'm failing in my role. But to now understand, I'm here to serve and hold space for those that are ready. If you're not ready, that's okay. That's okay. I think sometimes I hear things from people that are trying to introduce men to these spaces, and they're like, can you fix my husband? Can you fix my boyfriend? Oh my God, he needs this so much. He is so fucked up. You would not believe how fucked up this man is. He needs you. Oh my God, please get him to go. I'm like, well, first of all, that wouldn't be a super enticing premise for me to enter a space. Personally speaking, I don't know about you guys. But I like to tell them, just give them the information. We plan to do this work for a very long time. My goal is to create and maintain infrastructure for Asian men's mental health that lasts beyond my lifetime, right? So what's sustainable now is we're here to serve who's ready, who feel a call in the soul, like Noel did, right? So when they show up, they're going to be ready to listen. They're going to be ready to give. There's a part of their heart and soul that's ready to shatter and open. So I'm extremely optimistic, I'd hope so, in my line of work, about the future of Asian men's mental health, because I've seen it. I've felt it, but the maturity is also understanding I'm not here to force that upon anybody, right? I'm not here to just simply apply a capitalistic mind frame and structure to that. Because what happens with non-hierarchical healing and like that way of diffusing wisdom within a community, it takes time. It takes time. And that's why we keep doing it, because you never know what permutation of someone saying something to someone that reminded them of this, and oh my God, it's the piece I needed to forgive myself, or XYZ. It's a release of control. And with that release of control sometimes come, but well, we're growing 10% every quarter. It takes time. It takes a different understanding. So I'm extremely optimistic and also learning to be more patient.
I can go next after.
Yes.
Yeah. Two things stand out to me in terms of what the future looks like for men's mental health. One is ripple effects. I even just thinking about my own life, I didn't know like a single man that like openly expressed going to therapy before the pandemic. And so that was like my reality. So I just like, is this the norm? But present day, it's like, oh wow, I actually like have and know amazing people who I look up to and are my friends who like are openly doing practical steps for their mental health, whether that's therapy or support groups or doing events that really prioritize seeking help. I think that these ripple effects are going to just hopefully continue to know that we can change the norm of what's seeking help for us. And the other is really this idea of strength, especially in men, as to like what is strength, right? And can we reimagine strength? And the way that I see that is that strength means being able to ask for help. It takes courage to be able to admit that I have fears or worries about what may happen in the future, or what other people may think. Things that I wouldn't know if other guys would ridicule me for, but realizing that, oh, they actually don't ridicule me. They actually like empathize and relate to that and want to provide me encouragement and comfort. It's amazing to know that there's strength in that regard. And there's also strength in being able to support others who are asking for help too, because that's how we build community and trust. And so I find that the future can be quite hopeful.
Lovely, lovely. Noel, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I will. I mean, for anyone who I ever talked to in one-on-one moments, will know that when tackling this kind of question, we have to really understand the multitudes that unfold as it's happening. It is a yes and both and answer when it comes to how positively it's going to affect society and the communities, and if it's not going to, because going jazzing off and harmonizing with what everyone's been saying so far, especially the word readiness, it's always going to be amazing for those who are ready. And this is why we do the work that we do gently, because everything that has ever been defined as man or masculine has always been forced or with a strong arm intentionality, versus a place where you are welcoming someone with open arms and saying, hey, let me embrace you for the first time so you could just rest here. And depending on the level of trauma that or pain or confusion or whatever that someone is coming to these spaces informed with, will determine the rate in which they will understand what is being offered to them. So the readiness is so important. And so in the long run, in the general scheme of things, I do believe that it is going to be an amazing space, because we are in the midst of creating the data to share. The data was not really present, or it wasn't data that was happening in real time. So we are forging a path this time. We are being vulnerable and being innovative and holding these spaces for healing. And when we continue to do this slowly with gentleness and kindness, then other people will see what's going on and maybe ebb and flow in the same way too. So I think they're definitely in the future, it will blossom into a beautiful thing. And for anyone looking for this kind of space, remember, every flower in the garden blooms at a different time.
I would just add really quickly that I also think the outlook is very positive, because selfishly, I want to add and contribute to that positive outlook however I can, with whomever I can. There's this African proverb that, if you want to go far or you want to go fast, do it alone. If you want to go far, do it with others. And there's a recent interview that I saw of this novelist. His name is Ocean Vuong. He's a Vietnamese American, and he writes fictional stories about the working class, LGBTQIA, many, many different themes, trauma. And he says something about masculinity, just going back to masculinity, and how that we associate with the language of destruction. And he was using euphemisms like, oh, you're killing it, or, you're blowing this up, or, just different words of, destruction that's associated with a form of masculinity. And I want to answer this question in a way where, in order to contribute towards that positive outlook and trajectory, in my opinion, it's almost like we have to reframe and reinforce or build new language and vocabulary. Some of us have used the words lexicon, almost new vocabulary, new language in terms of how men show men that we can speak in a more healthful, gentle, non-judgmental way to each other and with each other. It's almost like reframing the mindset and rethinking how we use language again. Those are, my thoughts on it. So, guys, this could go forever, but I'm going to wrap this up if no one has any last comments or wants to follow up on that. But Lee, I'm going to direct this question to you. Where can one go if you have limited or no resources? Tell us about the programming that you put out there now, both virtually and in person. Physically, where can they go to? And for those that are not physically in the same space, how would you direct them? Are there recommended resources? And anyone else could follow up with that as well.
Yeah, really quick. So for Proud Asian Men, that's the moniker under which a lot of our Asian men's mental health work happens. And it is a bi-weekly support group. There's a free bi-weekly support group for Asian men hosted through Asian Mental Health Project. So if you don't have the resources, that is a place where you can go. Granted, it's going to be a bigger group than some of the other groups that I host, but that's helpful sometimes for people too, right? You can show up. It's a very relaxed space. You can be off camera and you can just be there to absorb the stories that people are sharing. And even for in-person events. So we're going to have in-person events in LA through the rest of the year. The May event, unfortunately, is sold out. So that's extremely full right now. You can still sign up for the wait list, but that's also a free to attendance. Later monthly events, there's always the option of, hey, if you're seeing an event that we're going to do that you're really excited about and you really can't swing it, hit me up. We have people that believe in the work that donate tickets all the time. Right. So if you have that desire to join the work, we will do our part to get you in the room, in the conversation, in the community. So in terms of accessible resources, we're going to continue to do our best. You can follow either me at Lohi Official on Instagram or at Asian Mental Health Project. All information about those spaces will be disseminated there.
I had a random thought as well, because I'm also thinking in terms of like if people are across country or internationally too, that a thought just came to mind. Yeah, in terms of general, yeah, we could just go to a park as well. And then also, hiking groups. I think a lot of men in the environmental groups or, gardening groups, compost or hiking groups, they tend to be really, especially when going out into, whether it's like a surfer dude or into the mountains, I think there's a lot of men who are really, in tune with talking about mental health in that way too. Random thought, just in terms of like spaces to find, supportive men where we usually might not have articulated it.
Anywhere in nature, basically. Dr. Michael, do you have any recommended resources?
I mean, Leah and Jackson have already mentioned some great ones to consider. As a current member of the Digital Next Gen Council, I do want to emphasize that for very specific like crisis moments or perhaps emergency, there's always the 988 number. That's for not just anyone who is having thoughts of suicide, but just for people who have like really stressful like life circumstances as well. Like I used to be a counselor on these phone calls at night, and it's been really inspiring to know that whether people are going through really whether it's one might consider serious or not so serious, just the main message is that like if someone's going through something that's painful, it's okay to ask for help. And like someone calls that number, it's generally someone who's very well trained to be able to provide like empathy and risk assessment to see like how can we best provide you support. And whether people want to call that, there's also chat options too. There's even a team option if you want to speak to other youth. That's a possibility during the weekday evenings as well. And so I just want to give a plug that the national hotline is there for anyone if they feel like it, whether it's suicide related or mental health related.
For sure. And don't worry, guys. At the time of release, we'll put all these links into the show notes. But yes, most importantly is to be able to reach out, seek support, seek help. You are not alone. And you just don't know that, someone very, very close, not necessarily, blood related, but help and support and understanding and compassion is not too far away. And you never know that it, may just show up in a stranger. So especially these four that I've never met prior to this and now have become great, great friends. Forever, right? Forever.
6 months expires.
On that note, we're going to come to a close. Any last thoughts or takeaways that you want to impart to the audience before we close? No, go ahead.
Well, I will say, as far as resources are concerned, definitely give cultural arts a try. As a non-Japanese individual in leadership in the taiko community, finding music, finding the arts from whatever ethnic background you're from, or an ethnic background or cultural art that you're interested in. It's really important to try to find different ways that resonate within you, that may bring out those feelings that you thought would never come out. Like for me, it was taiko. I didn't know that it was going to be Japanese drums that would help me find at least the beginning parts of the identity I didn't know was buried under there. So sometimes looking at the arts, dance, singing, cultural crafts, stuff like that, you never know how that might inform you for your own healing.
Yeah, I would say just bring friends and dance at a park. Literally as simple as that. It's the purpose is not to be good at dance or to be skilled at it to look good in any way. It just connect with music, connect with your friends, connect with nature. So bring friends, dance at a park. Literally, it could just be one other person. That's actually how my session started. I just wanted to dance with this friend. It was a partner dance, and then we went to a park. It was great and beautiful. And then we kept doing it. And then even if there's one or two other people, it can still be a really, really great and beautiful session. So every single time people are like, this is beautiful, this is amazing. But unless somebody initiates it in these schedules nowadays, in these lives. So yeah, bring friends, go dance at a park or make friends at the park.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for everyone's very, very, very grateful. Your experience, your expertise. Thank you for bringing yourself to today's session. I know the audiences have benefited from this and have, instead of a taboo and stigma, we are having more of a positive and optimistic trajectory and outlook towards how we deal with difficult topics surrounding mental health. So thank you again to you gentlemen, and keep up the good work, both personally and professionally. So Until the next time, guys, please say goodbye to these four gentlemen, and we will see you guys on the next episode. Bye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoy that episode. If you like that, please like, comment, and subscribe. And please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and anywhere that you listen to your podcasts. And if you felt that this was a benefit for someone else, please let them know. And don't forget to give us a 5-star rating, and we greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next one.